Lipstick stains accompanied his shirts. The smell of another woman on his body overpowered his usual man scent. The different odor of shampoo in his hair piqued my interest. My boyfriend, Jesse, was cheating, and he didn't hide it. I knew it because I was once the lover who he cheated on his ex-girlfriend. I should have known that he wouldn't last with me. I should have known that he was created to be a cheat. I wanted to be angry with him, to confront him, lash at him, and dispel my angst. I longed to remind him of the love we shared, the children we could have, and the joy in a home we could build. But I decided against it. Rather than show him my weakness, I decided to leverage my strength. A trick-or-treat show. It didn't matter that it wasn't Halloween. I told Fiona to tell Jesse. Fiona had been my friend since I was 10 years old. She was the only one who understood me when everyone called me weird. She stood by me, fought for me, or I fought for her. When I told her of my suspicion and showed her evidence that Jesse was cheating, she was all too ready to track him and find out who the bitch was. She caught the woman sooner than I thought, and the show came up quicker. On that day, I called Jesse early and told him to keep dinner time free because I had a special announcement for him. During the day, Fiona and I went on a girls' day out. It was a full makeover, from the spa to getting my facials done, to the manicure and pedicure, and finally to the hairstylist. I looked exquisite for the occasion. Jesse dared not look at another woman. I arrived at his place late in the evening. He looked impatient and didn't hug me. I kept my anger at bay. Nothing to spoil the show, so I was forced to act natural. He questioned my presence, and I told him to relax. He asked me to relax, and I told him I had food packs. Even if he was disappointed, he didn't voice it. I was glad that he respected me. I settled into one of the couches that occupied the sitting room and turned on the television. A few minutes later, he asked, "Why are you even here?" It was the question I was waiting for, the magic words that began the show. "Want to play a game?" I said, and flashed my teeth at him. He cringed. I was irritated by his reaction, but I kept my smile plastered. "What kind of game, Linda? Did you come to play a game here? You can do that at the game house," he hissed. "It's not a game house kind of game. Don't you think I'm a little too old to be seen in a game house?" 28 years isn't old, Linda. What do you want?" "Trick or treat?" I smiled and pushed away my anger. That could wait for later, or maybe never. "Trick or treat?" The look on his face was alarming. It took all my strength not to laugh. "It's not even Halloween, and what kind of game is that?" "Just choose, Jesse. Do you want to be tricked, or do you want a treat?" I moved closer to where he sat and tickled his chin. "Trick," he said, and I smiled. I turned off the television and motioned for the light switch, but changed my mind. It was better to see the reaction in his eyes while I tricked him. Brace for this. I stood and got on my knees, closed my eyes, and held my hands together tightly. "Did you hear about Maddie?" I rushed at him and watched his eyes for any reaction. "Maddie? Who's Maddie?" I sat beside him, sympathy filling my eyes. "Maddie is one of Fiona's neighbors." Indeed she was. Jesse's new lover didn't live so far. There was an accident. She was murdered. Murdered? I loved to see the color drain from Jesse's eyes. I loved the way his cheeks were flabby when he swallowed hard. I loved the reaction my story gave him, and my insides danced. What do you mean by she was murdered? What happened?" He stood up. "It's so sad. Fiona got back home and met some officers moving in and out of one of the buildings on her street. She inquired from one of the onlookers, and this was the story. Maddie, the young lady, woke up from sleep and was shouting, screaming at the top of her voice for help, but no one could hear. Her screams were muffled by pillows. The murderer suffocated her and watched intently as every form of life escaped from her eyes. The murderer watched her struggle, shake and wiggle. It was a horrific sight to behold. As if that wasn't bizarre enough, the murderer took a knife and cut her into a million pieces. He washed a few pieces, boiled them, fried them, and packed them away. Her remains were found in the apartment. Such a sad story. I shook my head and looked at Jesse. He was staring at me with blank eyes, and his hands were shaking. The onlookers told you that? I shook my head in response, and Jesse moved backward, taking slow steps away from me. I burst into laughter. "You don't believe me, do you?" His eyes were confused, and I kept laughing. "Trick served," I said and laughed harder. He breathed out loudly inside. "Linda, don't you do that to me again." I chuckled. "It's the way I dreamed of murdering whoever you cheat on me with." I smacked my lips and winked at him. He didn't react. "Since I have served my trick, it is time for your treat." I grinned while retrieving the food packs I brought with me the other time. Jesse sat beside me and unpacked the food. He frowned at the contents. "A few pieces of fried meat for dinner? Linda?" He scoffed. "But I thought men like to eat their women for dinner." I made sure to sound defeated and watched with relish as Jesse linked the story. Of course, it wasn't any trick. How else could I have described the murder of Maddie so vividly if I didn't commit the murder? If I wasn't the one who cut her flesh into pieces and packed it for dinner at Jesse's house while the police uncovered a mystery that would never get solved. Jesse stood and tried to flee the room, but I pulled him over to myself and sat him down while rubbing his head. He shivered in my hands and begged for his life. I looked into his eyes and said, "It's okay, Jesse. You're safe with me. We'll get married and give birth to the best of children. Just don't cheat on me again, and no one will die." That's how you take care of a cheating boyfriend. Another blackout. Another video as usual. A scribbled note? Unusual. I sat up from the two-seater, the only furniture apart from a small stool in the living room. What if I told you the blackout I mentioned wasn't one from electricity, neither general? It was my death to life, technically, and I woke up at that time. Blackout over until it wished to show up again. I glanced at the only wall clock in the room. The time was 9 p.m. The last thing I remembered was coming into the house from my interview at KFC. I squealed, forgetting my predicament for a little while. I got the job to work as a chef. My excitement vanished as my mind finally calculated how long I was gone. It had been 6 hours. I got home by 3 p.m. and woke up in strange clothes and I'm going. I want to see. Which fucking mommy? Yet the handwriting seemed too much like mine. I clicked the play button on the video on the laptop placed on the stool. I don't remember purchasing a laptop. I saw myself doing a silly dance in the center of the room. I scrubbed my hair with my nails and bit back tears, frustrated. When the fuck did I do this? After dancing, I disappeared into the kitchen and stood in front of the camera. I didn't have a fucking camera in the house. I never bought one. I couldn't even tell where the camera was. I stared blankly at the screen. I brought the knife to the veins in my left hand. "You're supposed to be dead," I stared into the camera and said, then shut it off. The video died. I screamed. This was new. I had never tried to hurt myself with death in my eyes. It wasn't the first. Neither was it the second. It wasn't the third either. My blackout started when I was 7. The day after my mommy died, I saw her hang herself in the center of her room. I watched through the keyhole of her door. I fainted and woke up a couple of days later, but the doctor said I had woken up the previous day and screamed at them to kill me. I didn't remember an ounce of it. The blackout stopped for a while. Those were times when I was distressed with life and felt like dying. But once I got hope of life and a dream job, it returned. I scrambled to the bathroom and washed my face, but not without screaming first at the mirror and crying. I got rid of the filthy clothes and threw them in the dustbin. Fuck the blackouts. I had my dream job, and I wasn't about to let it get ruined. And I sure wasn't willing to die. Not for my mom. I hated her. My first day at work was neither good nor bad. The work was tedious and fun. The hustle and bustle brought some life and color to me, and for the first time in 18 years, I didn't feel dull. I thought it was all good until I woke up 12 hours later in my bed, and in the clothes I threw in the trash can the day before. There was a bloody knife in my right hand and a slight cut on my left arm. Did I say slight? I was fucking bleeding. Did I hurt myself? I ran to the bathroom and covered my wound with tissues. I ran out of the house and took a cab to the hospital. While I was at it, I made a phone call to the police station. I told them I was about to be killed and was on my way. After getting my wound stitched and treated, I took another cab to the police station nearest to my house. "I'm Alicia. I called the station about an hour ago," I told the first police officer I met. "Oh, come in. Can you please tell us what happened?" "But I don't know what happened. I was at work by closing time. I visited the toilet and woke up back at home with this cut in my arm and a knife in my hand." The officer blinked at me twice. My story probably made no sense to him. "We'll see what happened. Meanwhile, be careful," he said. I took another cab back home. Time was running out and I had to prepare for work. That was when I found another scribbled note by my bed. "Shouldn't we go to Mommy now, Alicia? Let's die." I screamed and threw my fists at the wall. I didn't want to die. Who was trying to kill me? I placed a call to the police station again, but I was disregarded. The officer told me I went home by myself, and I looked completely sane according to the CCTVs from KFC to my house. He said I didn't have any intruders, and that a video of me cutting myself was uploaded on my Instagram account that morning. I shivered. After dropping the call, I opened my phone and my Instagram. It was right there. I was in the center of my bed with the same knife I found in my hand. With a swift drag, I placed a cut and smiled into the camera, wincing in pain. I deleted the video and turned off my phone. What was happening to me? What the fuck were these blackouts? Was I going mad? Maybe the police officer was right, and I needed to see a psychiatrist. I shrugged off the feeling and got dressed. Perhaps cutting and frying some chicken would take my mind off work. I was a lady in my prime and was supposed to enjoy life, not be scared of it. I visited a psychiatric hospital I knew. My second day at work was crazy, and I could barely hold a knife. I shook like a chicken when one was placed in front of me. The video of me cutting myself messed with my head so bad that I ran to the hospital. For a while, I believed I was running mad. It didn't take long for the doctor to give his diagnosis. I was so worked up and bent on living that I showed a stranger the videos I saw whenever I woke up and told him about when it started, my abusive mother, and how I hated her, but also hated how she died. I showed him photos of the scribbled notes I had on my phone and cried, "I don't want to die." "It's your personality. Your personality wants to die." "Why?" I sobbed, not understanding a word. "You have a multiple personality disorder. It was created when you watched your mom die. You thought you hated her, but the part of you that loved her ripped out to form a personality of its own. That personality wants to follow your mom to the afterlife." What am I supposed to do? Have a conversation with it and heal. "What is that?" I said, but didn't hear the response. I blacked out. Again. When I woke up later, I was in a white room, laid on a white mattress. The room was void of any form of furniture save the mattress. There was no door, or I couldn't see one or a door handle. There was no window, but the room was well ventilated. I had on my body a white gown that seemed impossible to remove. I screamed. Was I being held hostage at an asylum? A few seconds later, the doctor from before came in. I was too flustered to notice the room actually had a door. It was only without a handle. I ran to him, demanding an explanation. "Are you Alicia or Sarah?" he asked, and my blood turned cold. Sarah was my mother's name. "Sarah is my mother's name," I said, and he sighed. He explained to me that my other personality was also named Sarah. Her triggering factor was my joy. Sarah didn't think I deserved peace and was determined to die. She thought it was wrong that only my mother had to die that day. The doctor said he couldn't let me go for fear that my personality would kill me soon. I sank into the ground and wept. If therapy was needed to live a normal life, I was up for it. I shook my head and he smiled. He walked out and beckoned me to follow him. I did. I was ready to heal.
The next thing I heard was the loud siren of the police. I stared at my boyfriend and then back at the body that lay on the floor with anger in me. I slapped my boyfriend Jonathan with every bit of anger that was left in me before the police walked in to take him out. It had been 3 years since I told him that his anger was getting out of hand, and if he wasn't careful, it would lead to the end of many things, including our relationship. But growing up as a guy who only knew violence as the way to correct things, it was hard to change things, and I doubted it was going to be hard to change anything at all since he was now with the police. The night started out like any other night. We had said goodbyes to each other from the video call we had, and just when I was about to sleep, I heard a loud knock on the window, which made me scared for a minute until I realized it was just Jonathan.
For God's sakes, it's 12 o'clock in the morning.
I checked the clock that was on my dressing table for the time.
You should be asleep. You have morning shift tomorrow.
Jonathan looked at me thoroughly, and I could notice his eyes doing a secret glance into my eyes. I should have known that it was him not being comfortable, that I told him I was going to be home alone tonight. My roommate had to run a night shift at the hospital, which meant I had the house to myself, since I worked at a restaurant and only had to go to work in the morning.
Jonathan, I told you that you need to trust me. All this sneaking in my room at weird hours is not it at all. It's really creepy in case you don't know, and it scares me. You also do it at night, which makes it too crazy to bear sometimes.
He ignored anything I said, and then sat on my bed. He stared at the door for a good 5 minutes before eventually talking. I just wanted to be sure you weren't cheating on me. He looked nonchalant about it and acted like it was a normal thing to just walk into a room at 12 in the morning to be sure his partner wasn't cheating. I ignored him in anger and frustration at correcting him for the 100th time. If he was at least going to change, he could have done it a long time ago. I was just waiting for the perfect time to break up with him. It was hard having to deal with jobs and family at the same time. Talk less of dealing with his own excesses. I had slept for a few minutes when he suddenly woke me up again to ask what I would count as the most stupid question anyone could ever ask. Are you dreaming about another guy? I ignored him and turned to the other side of the bed. It was going to be too much stress answering him. How on earth could I have ended up with someone like him?